Hi everyone and welcome to another Linfield Coaches CatChat for the Linfield Men's Soccer Program. Joe Stuart here with you on the Linfield Sports Network with head men's soccer coach Andy Duvall. Andy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thank you. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Beautiful day out here in our beautiful soccer facility. It's a great place to just talk some soccer, right?
Absolutely.
So let's do that. So let's get into your last weekend. A couple tough losses there to Whitman and Whitworth, 5-1 to Whitman and then 6-1 to Whitworth. Looking at that Whitman game, a tough team, one of the best in the conference, one of the best in the country, really. But you guys hung right with them for a good half and change there before they just were able to start, winning some matchups and taking advantage of some things and just playing the way great teams do. So what did you like through that first half, and then what did you see change down the stretch of that match?
Yeah, I mean, what I like the most is that in the situation that we're in, you're given the opportunity as a coach to make a decision about philosophically how you want to try and approach what your team is going to do. And we're not surviving. We're not just sitting back and hoping that opponents can't try and outmatch us when we're going to defend on top of our own penalty area. Our guys are actually going toe-to-toe with everybody that we play, and they're doing it in ways that gives them the best chance to actually try and win a match. And so they're learning a lot through that process. They're giving themselves the best opportunity to try and develop as individual athletes and learn the game on a higher level. And because of that, we're taking some lumps that other teams may not take. And, when you look at the conference records, it might seem to think that, oh, well, there's certain teams that are outperforming others based on close score lines. Well, it's got to be based on what it is that your team is trying to do. And what we're trying to do is teach these guys how to win matches, not survive matches. And so credit to our guys, like you said, for a half and some change. They were able to go toe-to-toe with Whitman from penalty box to penalty box, create some good chances. We weren't able to put them away. And then Whitman was able to try and kind of unlock us a little bit and find opportunities. And they had the quality in their athletes in the final 18 yards to do it.
Yeah, and then against Whitworth, kind of a similar story, but a little bit more throughout the course of the match that time. They found some seams. But there were some positives offensively in that match as well. What did you like from the positive things that you saw in both of these matches you allowed your players to play with a lot of freedom in these, like, even against a tough opponent. What did they show you when you gave them that freedom on the pitch?
Yeah, just that I think it's Johan Cruyff who said it. He said, football is a game of mistakes, and whoever makes the most mistakes generally loses, right? And so we made more mistakes than Whitman and Whitworth, but what we're giving the team the ability to do is to have the freedom to make those mistakes, as you're alluding to. And so credit to both of those teams, Whitman and Whitworth. Their athletes right now, not entirely are more advanced than ours, but they have a few that are more advanced than the guys that we have. Whitman has Oscar Harding, who had a great game. He had 3 assists and a goal. And then Whitworth has a young sophomore in Dominic Guzman, who took advantage of us and had a really great game. He had 3 goals and an assist. And so those were difference makers for those two schools. And our guys are getting to a point where they're trying to figure out how to be a difference maker in those matches, but they're being given the chance to get repetitions in an environment where they're given the chance to try and figure out how to do that, right? And so, like you say, we're not holding them back. We're giving them opportunities to play freely, and they're learning how to play the game in a wide open way. And so, yeah, because of that, we'll take some lumps against opponents that are probably going to give us a little bit more than what we're able to handle right now. But I'm really confident in our guys, and I'm having a lot of fun with them. They're enjoying the way that they're playing, and the results are tough to take, but our egos aren't bruised to the point where we're not going to be able to overcome it.
Your first trip as the Linfield head coach to Eastern Washington, first overnight trip, and a lot of positives always come from the team just being able to spend that much time together, you being able to spend that much time with your players individually and collectively. What were some of the positives that came out of that here in your first Eastern Washington trip as the Wildcat head coach?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we coaches always want more of is more time with our athletes. I think it's fun for us to be with the athletes. It's where we get the most bang for our buck, so to speak. We get to have an impact on them in different ways. And so when you travel, you get a significant amount of time with your athletes, and that's irreplaceable. So just having that 3 days with the guys on the road, and I wish we could take all of them. I wish we could take the entire roster of 33 and really get all those guys around each other in those intimate environments where they not only get to know us better as coaches, but continue to get to know each other better. That kind of opportunity is something that I think the guys realize when they're not in season that they miss. They miss those road trips. And so our growth as a team was pretty significant over the weekend, and it comes in many different forms. I mean, we grew together in terms of our understanding of one another, our understanding of standards, demands, challenges, but also, yeah, it's a long road trip. And the cool part about that is that you can't get away from each other.
Yeah.
You know, you're around each other all the time, and so you learn a lot about one another in that environment, which helps you only come together stronger as a group.
Sure. Coming up this week, two teams that you've matched up well against last year, and just the programs have in the last few years, George Fox and Pacific. George Fox here in McMinnville, and then Pacific up in Forest Grove. What's the mentality like going into those matches, knowing that the players should be confident? This is teams they've played well against, but knowing that there's still a lot of learning to do, especially when you look at last week, moving now forward to the next.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in terms of matchups, and I'll reference last weekend, we matched up really well from penalty box to penalty box with Whitman and Whitworth. They had more class than we did in their attacking penalty box and in our attacking penalty box. So that won't change this weekend because that's about us, not about the opponent. We simply have to be better, have a higher level of concentration and more focus when we're defending inside of our own penalty box, and then we have to have more focus when we're attacking in our opponent's penalty box. And so regardless of who we match up with, that's just got to be better from us. And so it's something that's been a point of contention with the guys all week long. They knew it coming out of last weekend, coming into this weekend, and George Fox and Pacific are dogged in their approach to try and defend their penalty areas. And so I think that will be a big challenge for us, and we're looking forward to it. You know, the guys are excited about another weekend where they're going to be pushed and challenged in a different way than they were last weekend, but it's all about us. It's not necessarily about George Fox and Pacific.
Sure, and there's going to be some good matches here this weekend, and of course the Wildcats will be home on Saturday, on the road on Sunday. 2:30 the start time for both of those. We'll have live coverage of the George Fox match right here on the Linfield Sports Network from McMinnville starting at 2:15. Coach, thanks for the time.
Great, thank you, Joe.